welcome back, everybody, to Real Time for the Real Everyday Movie Fan. I am your host, Josh Williams.
And I'm James Sheridan.
Thank you so much for joining me and James here, because we're a day late. We told you guys last week who watched our review that we were going to get to it a day after because it was Easter, and I didn't get to watch it till actually just now. I just have finished watching it during dinner.
Oh, jeez.
Well, I finished. Well, I was eating dinner, then I stopped eating because I was getting caught up in the episode. Then I was like, "Oh crap! I need to finish eating before I even get on here." Then gather my thoughts. But you clicked on the video. You know what we're about to review for you guys. We're here to give you our real time spoiler review of The Last of Us episode 2 for season 2.
Season 2.
Season 2 called Through the Valley. Now, James. Okay, so before we get into anything, guys, please be sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell to receive all of our great content we have for you here on Real Time. And again, this is your spoiler warning right here. This is we're discussing everything up until the game of what happened at the end of this episode and what's happening from the end of this episode to, because we're not going to try to spoil anything what happens in the game for the future.
This is one where you want to watch this episode before you come and see this review. Please do not watch this review without seeing this episode.
And James,
although it's being spoiled all over the internet.
It really is. It's all over the place. So James, you were right. You were right. You were right.
It's not about being right. It's just I didn't see how they would do the pacing of this story without getting
boggled down.
The thing that everyone's been waiting for. Although it's been interesting watching the reactions online because you see two very different camps: the people who played the game and the people who definitely didn't play the game.
Right? Because everyone who played the game know what was coming.
Yeah, everyone knew. And if you're like me, you've been dreading this moment since they announced that they were going to do the show, let alone season 2. Because of course the second game came out before the show started.
Now, as a whole episode as a whole, I'm gonna start off first with this one, and we'll go to you, James. Because last time you got to go first. It's my turn. Yeah. Overall, good episode, great episode. The thing with the cordyceps being essentially, the cordyceps almost have they've always had like a hive mind type mentality, but to be smart enough to recognize that they've been found out in the sewers of this town, to then tell this army of zombies to go stop chasing after Joel and go take care of this town.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, that's insane. And that kind of shows what Ellie was talking about. And
it's gotten smarter.
It's gotten smarter. It's adapted. And and now that town, instead of saying, oh, she's like, talking out of her ass, that she's essentially not telling the truth, And it was pretty crazy. I mean, it was cool to see. And
moreover, watching the idea that they bury themselves underneath of their own dead.
That's crazy.
To protect themselves from the elements.
That's smart.
Because of course that's always been sort of a strategy that's been put out there by zombie survivalist armchair critics, is that you go to a northern climate or a climate that's colder because it'll slow down. I mean, traditionally that's applied to The Walking Dead, but this would be the same because the funny thing about these infected is that they're actually a lot more human in the way they sort of.
Yep.
Like, they're of course monstrous and whatnot, and they're infected, but they're also like, you can kill them more like a human, like than you could with The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
They're living dead kind of type, where it's not just like a brain death that needs to occur. It's like, I mean, you can burn them, you can cut their throat, and it's like that's not traditional zombie kind of murder technique. So it's like knowing that they can actually freeze and that they have a strategy to circumvent that is both fascinating and horrifying.
Right? But it was really awesome. Like, and the fact that they're starting to adapt like that makes you wonder where they're going to take this now, because this is more of a planting.
And I love that they set that up.
Yeah.
Like there was a bit of dialogue at the beginning, near the beginning, that like told you, oh, they're hiding under it. And then you see Abby in this field of just all the dead ones. And you're like, oh no, what? You know exactly what's going to happen.
Now, I mean, that was it was great. The action was awesome. The CG was great. You could tell that they put some money into this budget for that. Seeing Tommy take care of that big one was pretty cool to see. So to show what he
He
can
didn't
do.
explode. He's supposed to explode when they kill him.
Yeah, right. Um, but that's where my biggest positives lie. I am a so okay here. Let me start off with this. I am a purist when it comes to big moments like these, like when Negan beats oh, my phone goes off there. When Negan beats Glenn to death in the comics and it's graphic, I loved that they did it in the show and they didn't shy away from it. Whereas like people would say, "Oh, it was just too much. It was too graphic." I'm like, no, it's pure. It's the purity of the story to show how ruthless he is. Abby in the game was like that. They show it. They make you feel it. This one they did the more. They did the idea of less is more. I feel like it took away from her character. It took away from the moment. And in that same breath, I feel like now, again, we can. I still believe in the writers because it's one of the writers of the damn game. It's one of the guys who created the game, so he has all the freedom he wants to do to tell the story he wants to tell in a visual medium for a TV show. For me, I feel like how they had Abby come across Joel like that, and how she got basically fell off a cliff to then happen to find herself into that, and then Joel just happens to find her.
That's how it happens
Diminished.
in the game. It's almost beat for beat for the game.
Is it really? I thought they said a
Yeah.
trap for Joel instead.
No, that's almost exactly how it happens in the game. And someone actually did a great comparison of like what happens in the game and what happens in the whole torture sequence, and it's almost beat for beat. There are two sort of big differences, and we can get to that. But she is basically in the wilderness by herself, being chased by a horde of zombies when she runs into Joel, who saves her life. Now, the
I must be
circumstances
remembering
of
it
how
wrong.
the circumstances of how he saves her is a little bit different. But then she again suggests, I've got a safe space. Like he can't get back to the town because, of course, there's as in the show, there's a winter storm preventing them from getting there. And she suggests, I've got a place we can stay. And then that's when he and it's Tommy in the game,
Yeah, I
not
remember that.
Dina. But obviously Tommy has, more important things to take care of at that moment. Um, and they're very clearly trying to establish a relationship between Dina and Joel,
Yeah,
which I think will play into stuff that happens later in the season. But um, that is one of the big differences. The other one is the actual method of death, whereas the circumstances of the beating and the torture are almost beat for beat. And
I seem to remember different. I just remember you actually seeing in the cuts like him getting beaten a lot more than what was actually happening in this episode.
there might have been a little bit more beating in the game, but I think you still get the effect of that
Yeah,
and her brutality, especially. I like that you can hear it through, like you catch up with Ellie, you hear it through the floorboards as she's trying to creep through, just the brutality of how she's beating him.
yeah.
And then you see it through Ellie's eyes when she steps through the door and sees that like Joel is just a bloody carcass at that
Yeah.
point. Um, like even
Okay, well then,
even if Abby didn't give him the death blow, I don't think he would have survived that beating.
no. Okay, I must be remembering wrong because I could have. I mean, I guess. I guess I remember her setting a trap for him or something like that. Like basically, she put herself out there on purpose to be found by him, and then she lures him. That's how I thought
I
I
mean,
remembered it.
she's out there looking because they see the patrols are coming through. And she goes looking to see if like to observe the patrols, but then she gets kind of swarmed and cut off from the group,
Yeah.
and has
Huh.
to run for her life. And that's one of those moments in the game where you're actually playing as her. I've seen a lot of complaints that people are upset that they revealed in the first episode the whole like by the grave sort of revealing her motivation and whatnot, because that was kind of a surprise in the game, and people are upset that it kind of ruins the sort of surprise for the audience and the sort of character arc for her. But
I
I
didn't
feel
mind
like
it.
because you can't play as her, I think we need to understand her on a more human level and kind of empathize with her, which is why I liked when they showed the sequence of her at the beginning, talking to herself, reliving the hospital sequence and telling herself, "Don't go in there. You're not going to like what you find."
Yeah.
Um, because we don't, we as the viewing audience don't get the benefit that the game does of putting us in her shoes and empathizing with her by having to be her and try to survive with her, um, which
Yeah.
was a deliberate choice within the game itself, and they need to find other ways to do that in the show.
Right. I guess maybe I just remember it wrong because I was like, as I was watching it, I was like, man, does not make her, because I just remember how badass she was throughout the whole game. Like smart, like knew how to,
I don't think she was all that smart. I think she was vindictive and driven, but I think she was actually kind of stupid a lot of the time and
mm,
put herself into like really like, and that's kind of, not to go too deep in the weeds, but you know, this season is very much about revenge.
yeah,
And we've already seen Ellie swear revenge, just as we saw
I remember
Abby
that
swear
in the game.
revenge. And the rest of the story is kind of taking it. I don't, again, don't want to tell you what's happening, but
Yeah.
um, I think if you can put 2 cents together, you have an idea of, what the rest of the story will be, especially if you saw the tease at the end. Um,
And I mean,
the
so the actual story and like the acting and everything that was going on once Joel was in the house was awesome. I mean, Kaitlyn Devers just proves how good she is as an actress. Joel, how just of a powerhouse of an actor he is. I love that spot too where she's like about to get the golf club and she's trying to keep going on this rant. He's like, "Would you just do it already?" Like
yeah,
he's just like over. He's like, "I know what I'm here for. I know what you guys are here for." It's almost like he's
just get it
facing.
over with.
Yeah, just get it over with. And like it was crazy and so good. And the rest of the team, like some of them were in it, some of them were just like afraid to be in that moment, just didn't want to be in that moment.
Yeah.
And all great, top notches on all of them, all of them. Great work for. It's just I wanted to. I just like again. I guess I remember feeling it more in the game, and when you like because they were. I mean, yeah, you don't want to show graphic for graphics' sake. For this scene in particular, it's almost like we as the audience are also facing the demons of Joel of what he did. So we have to face the music along with him by feeling it and seeing it. At least that's how I remember from the game. It's just this one I felt like it. The less is more mentality could have, did wasn't needed. I want at least for me.
Well, I feel like the impact is also lost for you and me because we played the game, or viewed the game, and it being it, like the surprise and whatnot is
Right,
kind of gone, and I feel like the surprise is part of what led to how visceral that moment was and
right,
how heart wrenching that moment was. Because of course Joel was the main character of the story for the entire first game.
right,
I mean, we did have bits of Ellie playing when Joel was out of commission and whatnot, but for the most part, you played as Joel. He was the character through whom's eyes you see the world,
right.
um, and to see him just viscerally beaten to death and murdered um, was so heartbreaking that I didn't want to continue
Right.
with the rest of that game. I did out of sheer curiosity of where it went, and I've made no secret that I didn't like the second game as much, but I don't like revenge stories.
Right.
I don't find them very compelling storytelling, mostly because I can't relate to, especially in this instance, like you want to compare and contrast, what Joel did versus what Abby um, does. Joel is taking lives to try and save a life, which I'm not sure is a great justification, but
Right.
Abby's taking a life
Out of pure revenge and
out of pure
hatred.
revenge of a life having been taken, kind of thing. Um,
Yep.
and I guess some people feel like a sense of justice of that. I don't. And seeing stories motivated that by that just don't appeal to me all that much. I
Right.
mean, I'm sure there's like one or two where I've enjoyed. The only one I could think of off the top of my head is John Wick, but that's because I feel very differently about killing a dog than I do about
Right.
killing a human being. So go fuck them up, John Wick.
Right.
Um,
And again, that's been boiling over on the internet as far as social media goes too. Was Abby right? Was she right in doing what she did?
And I
Or
think that's something that people are missing the point on this is that um, it's not right or wrong. They're
yep,
all wrong.
exactly.
And you
It's
can
that gray
justify
area.
and say that, if it was my family member, I'd want to kill them too. Sure, I kind of understand that, but at the same time, um, I I don't think that's going to give you the catharsis you think it will. Um, and now there's two people dead, and you have to live with that for the rest of your life, kind of thing.
Yep.
Um, so I I don't like that. That was kind of my problem with part two. The game is that so much of the story is about the revenge, and it's like I don't like watching these characters go down that path and um, kind of slowly destroy themselves. Um, Especially when you see where certain characters end up,
Yep.
um, without again getting into the weeds. And I don't want to spoil anything, but um, we're in for some very dark storytelling ahead.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
which
Tell me
again, I
about it.
don't think that's a spoiler. I think that's fairly evident at this point. Um, and that's not to say that the show hasn't been dark so far, but um, it's going to get grim. Um,
And Bella Ramsey does
Counter
it
to that, though, I really, really enjoyed not only the pacing
right.
of this episode,
That was good.
but the wonderful juxtaposition of um, the entire siege sequence. Like first, Abby running from them, and everybody trying to hide from the storm, and then hide from the horde, and then the horde sieging the town of Jacksonville and whatnot, and just the like breakneck speed of that, and just the um, insanity of watching them break through and like just start murdering everybody,
Yep.
and then you get to Joel in the cabin, and everything slows down to a like
Grimacing halt.
glacial pace. And it's not like that's not a criticism. I think that is very well done storytelling of, and like like I said, juxtaposing of the differences in those scenarios where like one is an absolute immediate crisis of um, panic and immediacy, whereas the other one is this long drawn out
Mm-hmm.
horror of torture and tension. And like it's two different ways of doing tension, and I think they did it beautifully in both.
Right.
Um, where like one felt like an action sequence in a Resident Evil game, whereas the other part felt like I don't even know what to compare it to, but like it just again that sort of slower pacing of watching the situation where Joel is in, and you're just scared for him, and you're just beside yourself of like, please somebody come rescue him, somebody get him out of this, anybody come and help him, but nobody can because everyone's stuck in the
Yep.
city trying to deal with this horde. And of course, Ellie comes to his rescue, but Ellie's immediately dispatched, can't do anything, and like we're stuck in her shoes in that moment of watching this character we love just be murdered,
Right.
and it's horrifying. And like I just remember being not even sick to my stomach, but just like not able to mentally process it for days when I played when I went through the game at first. And it's like um I was dreading reliving it now, and it wasn't as bad this time,
Because you're expecting it.
um because I'm expecting it, and it's like it's still a moment that I don't want to have to relive, but it's like
Yeah.
I don't know, I just love the way they handled.
Can we give it up to the makeup and prosthetics department for this
Yeah,
episode? Not just not just the horde, but the look on Joel, like the bruising of
yeah,
Joel's
the
face,
battered
like the
face.
swelling.
Oh,
It just looked, whoa! It looked so good, so real. Hats off to them, the whole makeup and costume and prosthetic department. Like
and
it
it's
was
funny.
just top
I
notch.
saw a clip with him with Pedro Pascal, and he's like he was debating to himself which death of his was worse, the death of Joel or the death of his character in Game of Thrones.
I say
Which
Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones is a little more brutal in that it's like
He literally like got his head crushed,
I
literally.
yeah, I wasn't gonna give that much
Oh,
information
it's
if
long,
people hadn't
long
seen it,
gone,
but
long time ago. But
um, both are fairly awful, and it's like, oh, I don't know. I love Pedro, and it's going to be heartbreaking seeing this series without him.
I honestly
Um,
think they're gonna to help pull along those strings because I feel like with Bella, well, I was gonna say earlier, Bella Ramsey did a great job. I feel like her performance, because this is how I felt when I saw it, was that look of horror, guilt, and scared.
the
Like 'cause the guilt that
desperation,
she's been treating Joel the way she has been. Now it's about to end. The sadness that he's in this predicament, like
the
all that was.
desperation when she's pleading with him
Yep.
or pleading with them to not kill him, to just stop and let's talk this out. And it's just like, I've been in situations like that, whereas you're just panicked and you're helpless, and it's
Yep.
like all you can do is plead. And just the panic in her voice, like, again, I've never doubted Bella Ramsey in her ability to perform, but this was, again, just heart shattering. Um, yeah, and it just
Yeah. It was
it
really rough.
like you, to your point earlier about Kaitlyn Dever and her performance as Abby. Like, this is where I really felt that same sort of, I don't want to say hatred for her, but um, like, I didn't like her character in the game, and I know they kept trying to make us like her and empathize with her, and I empathize with why she wants to do what she does, but like at every turn, I disagree with everything she's doing, and in this moment, I just hated her as a person,
Mm-hmm.
and I hate to use that term, but and Kaitlyn Dever put me right back into that place where it's like, this man just saved your life,
Yep.
and you are so driven by vengeance that you can't even take a pause to appreciate that he's done this, that you are here because of him,
Oh yeah.
and now you're going to murder him. And just watching the hate and the anger and the pain in her
Like
as
overflow
she's
her.
going
Yeah.
through all of this, just hats off to her for that performance.
Oh yeah.
And just like,
100%.
honestly, this, everything hinged on this moment, and I feel that they did it almost perfectly.
Right.
And
I
I
completely
feel
agree.
like, to the point, and that's fine. We don't have to agree on that, but I think the reaction of people to this is one that's going to be long lasting. You're going to see those clips on YouTube and TikTok for here to eternity,
Oh yeah.
of to eternity, of like people reacting to this moment and just the absolute horror of them realizing that this character they love
Is gone.
is gone, and
Oh
there's
yeah.
nothing we can do about it.
And I
There's
still
no
think they're
getting it
gonna
back.
have Pedro Pascal as Joel have do like flashbacks to help
There,
add into that
see,
emotion between.
I don't want to get into the spoilers of the game and whatnot, but there is content that they haven't covered yet,
Yep,
um,
for sure.
that we did see in the trailer for sure. Um, so this isn't technically the end of Pedro Pascal in terms of
Seeing
potential
him
flashbacks, but it's the end of his character in sort of new
present time
story moving forward from this point.
for sure.
Um,
Overall, I mean, good episode. I loved it. Just those complaints I had was are what they are, but I'm more now looking forward to what we're gonna see next because what happens next is if they
and
stick to the
it's funny
game,
because
it's gonna be
when we were
sick.
discussing um, last week and offline about this moment when it was going to happen, um, and we felt like they were going to pad it a little bit. That's why I had said, um, if not episode 2, then episode 3. I felt like maybe they would have this episode as not quite filler, but I thought the entire episode would be about the siege and about the infected getting into the town. I did not expect them to put everything into one episode.
Yep.
Um, and it's just like, I think this is my currently now my second favorite episode behind the Bill
Oh yeah,
episode.
for sure.
um because
Yeah.
I don't know, it hit every note the way I wanted it to. And I don't have any objections to, maybe on retrospect I might find some, but at the moment I have such a thrill after this, which is a terrible thing to say when it's like the moment I've been dreading the most, but it's like, I don't know, I very much appreciate how this was handled.
Yeah. Same here. I mean, same
Now
here. Minus
maybe
my
some of that is,
complaints.
maybe some of that is me coming off of our reviews of Daredevil, which if you haven't seen that, please go and watch. But I haven't been very
Happy.
generous with that show, and this has been a breath of fresh air in comparison. So, and we're only 2 episodes in.
Again, the complaints I had, that I had, and I'll still stand by them. But overall, still a really good episode. We got to that point. I thought they would at least go stretch that out a little bit longer, but hey, they just said nope. We're gonna get right into it, and now we're into some real interesting stuff, and I'm excited to see what they do next. But
I do wonder what they'll end the season on.
yeah, now I'm really curious. I have to look back and think back and make my predictions. 'Cause I don't want to make predictions now, but maybe we'll talk offline what I think what it might be, because you have to think about that too.
Yeah.
All right, folks, that'll do this for today.
Well, just before that, shout out to them for including the song at the end. First of all, by having Ashley Johnson perform it, because if you don't know, Ashley Johnson was the original voice actress for Ellie in the games, and I love that they're including her in this because, of course, she's much older than the character is, but she's a delightful online personality. If you don't watch Critical Role, she is just outstanding in that. Everybody is on that show, but she is just a wonderful person to watch, and I'm glad that they still include her in this because she was the voice of Ellie, and like
I deserves her flowers too.
But moreover, this song was sort of a deep cut for Last of Us fans in that it was used in a teaser trailer to announce Last of Us 2, and you would get it as the credit sequence if you beat the game on what was the mode called? It was like the no deaths mode, permadeath, I guess, or yeah, something like that.
Okay,
and it was like a special Easter egg if you beat the game on that mode. So it's like, again, I go on and on about the music, but the music is such an important part of the games and the mood and just setting the tone for everything. And I love that they've included not just like the same riffs, but like just even the in-world stuff of like having Pearl Jam and Nirvana and all that stuff in there, because it's part of the world, it's part of the lore, and it's like I really appreciate that they've gone to that level of care and level of because again, Neil Druckmann is still involved in all of this, but like HBO could just put a kibosh and all of that stuff and say, no, we're going to have it scored by Bear McCreary or somebody else. And it's like, that's great. Nothing against Bear McCreary for his, scores and whatnot. But like, the score is so iconic to the game. And I love that they include it in this. And I love that they include that song in this because, again, that song is, a very heartfelt moment of this. And it's very thematic for where we end up at the end of this episode. So kudos to them for keeping that attention to detail, and that's why I love this show so much, is that they have that level of care and detail.
Yeah, and that's, again, this is the blueprint, in my opinion, for how to do a video game TV show. Like,
I mean, to be fair, they have like one of the most story-driven games of all time to work off of, where when you're working with Super Mario Brothers or Tetris or Legend of Zelda, you don't have as much of that.
Well, I'm looking at you, Assassin's Creed, and Netflix, who has announced that Netflix is doing a TV show. I'm looking at you guys. Don't pull the crap you did with the movie. Give it its time to breathe and give it its proper story. That's all I'm
looking at you people doing Resident Evil again
for the 50 millionth time.
And they fucked it up every goddamn time. And It's like, do you not understand what these games are? And it's like, please do it right.
Right.
So right, yes, it's a breath of fresh air to see someone doing it right.
For sure. Totally agree. That'll do us for today, folks. Thank you so much for watching. What did you think of the episode 2 of season 2 of The Last of Us? Leave your comments in that section below. Give us your positives and your negatives and what you're looking forward to for next episode next Sunday. Also, if you like what you watch and you like what we provide here, please be sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you receive all of our great content here on Real Time. That's all we have for today. Again, I'm Josh Williams.
And I'm James Sheridan.
Thank you for keeping it real.
with real time. Good night.